So it pretty much has gotten to this the point now where if it's not military or commercial airspace travel or private airspace travel, it's getting shot down. If it's unidentified, it's getting shot down. Hello, Halfpint here, and I just wanted to say real quick, if you've been enjoying my content, please remember to subscribe to the channel here on YouTube and follow me on Twitch so you can always catch us when we're live and see more content. Also, if you are new here, welcome in, and if you're enjoying the video, please remember to like it because it helps me out a lot. I also post funny clips and other things on TikTok. All the links are in the description below, and thanks again. Now let's get into the video. Last week I covered the Chinese weather balloon that was spotted going over a big section of America, actually passed over my state. It's a freaking balloon. Maybe I'm missing something, but like, what do they have, like a boom mic attached to it? What's it hearing? Just wind from the stratosphere? What, or like a really good camera? Like, what could possibly be on a weather balloon that would be that big of a problem? I don't know. I don't get it. I'll be really interested to see what it turns out was in the balloon. And if it turns out it was something crazy, then I will eat the crap out of that crow, I guess, for saying, like, why would we worry about a balloon? It's just a balloon, chill out. As well, it was visible in my city. I didn't see it, though. It's probably asleep. I sleep during the day, so. But anyway. I personally had speculated that it seemed to me that because several instances seem to have happened under the Trump administration, like 3 similar instances under the Trump administration, with the exception of it had never passed over such a large portion of the US and it had never passed over particularly sensitive sites, which is why it was never brought up the chain of command. But I was under the impression that it's just a regular weather balloon. I really don't understand how high-tech it could be. A lot's happened since then. It's been shot down. It's been revealed that it had a large amount of solar panels and a heavy amount of weight and a high amount of antennas, to the point where they are pretty sure, reasonably confident, that it was much more than a regular weather balloon and in fact capable of interpreting and sending transmissions. It does appear to be some kind of spy craft. Since then, America has gone on to shoot down 3 or 4 more unidentified objects, 3 over the weekend. So I think 4 total, counting the original balloon. China has accused the US of having similar spy balloons or weather balloons in general flying over their airspace. We've definitely shifted into what appears to be some sort of Cold War again. So I just wanted to kind of revisit this topic, see what's going on with it, and also address the fact that, like, I was completely wrong in my prediction, which I even said and outlined as a distinct possibility when I was speaking on it, because again, I'm just some person who only has the information I have, and more often than not, the majority of the information is what I'm learning with you guys as I'm watching it here on stream. That's kind of what I'm attempting to do here more often than not, is make sense of things myself, and just kind of voice my opinion on it as it's happening. It's not really it's more of a react thing and a commentary thing than it is a informing thing when it comes from my perspective. The informative part comes from the pieces we're reviewing together, you know.
Today, the FBI announced it has started analyzing the first pieces of the balloon at its lab in Quantico, Virginia. And senior officials say those parts could be used as evidence in a future possible criminal case against groups linked to the Chinese military. The Biden administration has determined the balloon was capable of monitoring U.S. communications, but sources say U.S. officials believe that the Chinese government did not have the opportunity to gather much intelligence because the Chinese government stopped transmissions to the Chinese mainland once the U.S. found out about the balloon.
You guys have to help me understand why this baby wasn't taken out long before. And because I am telling you that this ain't the last time. We've saw brief incursions.
Accused of a lack of alarm and criticism over their decision to not shoot down the balloon sooner when it was near Alaska.
The fact of the matter is,
and they already answered on that, and I mean, It's a complicated call because, like, basically the response was, well, one, there was the worry about the threat to civilian lives with debris falling down after it was shot, and two, there was they wanted to be able to recover specifically the weather balloon and the electronics of it to reverse engineer it, understand how it worked, and understand what information it could have possibly gathered, which that's all pretty critical. That gives us information that is very useful in that sort of situation. So in a lot of ways it makes sense to me. Maybe there was an earlier opportunity to do that with a minimal risk of life, but I don't know. Like, it does make sense to me that they wouldn't want it just falling on someone's house, you know?
Alaska is the first line of defense for America.
In 4 different, often tense hearings, administration officials stood by their argument that it was safer to let the balloon cross the country while also gathering intelligence on Chinese capabilities. Many Democrats satisfied,
like,
many
it kind
Republicans still rejecting the White House
kind
and
of makes
Pentagon's
sense to me.
positions.
The next time, you know, we're not going to wait for it to go all across my state, all across the lower 48, and then shoot it down.
Officials now tell CNN there was a warning from the Defense Intelligence Agency the day before the balloon entered U.S. airspace near Alaska. When it did on January 28th, fighter jets were sent up to ID the balloon, but it was decided to let it fly on a northern trajectory and collect intelligence on it. Suddenly, an official said it took a strange turn south towards the lower 48 states, crossing into Idaho on January 31st and eastwards across the country. After it was decided to not shoot the balloon down over land, U-2 spy planes were sent up to monitor it, the administration determining that the balloon was no longer sending information back to China, sources say, as the U.S. tried to block it from gathering more intelligence on sensitive U.S. military sites. This balloon, just a small part of a broader, years-long Chinese balloon program whose fleet, the State Department says, flew over more than 40 countries.
Yeah, no, there have been now reports of, like, similar balloon instances in other countries, which is really interesting. It sounds like this might just be something in the modern age of espionage. I don't know, it might just be a reality of the digital era. It's interesting to see how it's going to be defined now and how it might change, because now that it's in the public eye and now that there's been this whole big thing about it, I don't know. I don't know how that'll go on to affect everything.
China outraged at the shoot-down, demanding the return of the remnants of the balloon. The U.S. refusing, instead sending the recovered pieces from the ocean to an FBI lab, where analysis has begun. So far, that includes the canopy, wiring, and some electronics. And Jake, we learned today that the balloon was carrying sophisticated electronics capable of surveillance of signals like communications and radar. Now, so far, what the FBI has collected has just been what was on the surface of the water just off of South Carolina. An FBI official says they haven't yet seen the payload where most of that surveillance equipment would be. This is the first time the FBI has investigated a spy balloon like this, and officials say that they're analyzing the components of the balloon for possible criminal charges.
Since then, China's accused U.S. of illegally sending balloons into its airspace. Other countries have also accused China of having similar balloons fly over their airspace, so that's why I was saying this seems to be something, maybe possibly, a modern espionage tactic. Obviously, I am in no position to know that sort of thing for certain, but that's why I kind of think that. If this is true, obviously I have no way of knowing if this is true. China has every reason to say it. If they did this thing and it does violate, you know, U.S. airspace and some possible agreement, like all those things, you know, like it makes sense. But I also wouldn't be surprised to find out that America was also doing it, violating airspace.
What's the reaction on the ground? And what are people saying as I think we all worry about, does this somehow escalate in ways we don't understand?
Yeah, and I think that the Chinese reaction was relatively strong, considering that there has not been any direct accusation directed towards Beijing for the objects that were flown over the weekend. However, the foreign ministry did push back again at any suggestion that the first object was related to China, accusing the U.S. of, quote, illegally flying balloons into Chinese airspace. Now, the ministry says that American balloons have trespassed into Chinese airspace more than 10 times last year, though it didn't provide any evidence to support that claim. Now, what was interesting is that these official remarks came as state media also said that they detected, or that local authorities had detected, an unidentified flying object over a Chinese port while Chinese military exercises were supposed to take place. So this was near a naval base, and those drills are supposed to happen today. What was interesting is that the authorities were also quoted as saying that the Chinese were expecting to and preparing to shoot down that object and were enlisting the help of fishing vessels to either collect or take photos of that debris.
Okay, gotcha.
Now, it's quite common practice, as you all know, for Chinese authorities as well as state media to attempt to redirect the conversation that is unfavorable to China.
I mean, Russia does that. America does that. It's common for any, positions of power when they are criticized to redirect conversations and focus to someone they work against for the sake of, identifying an out group that everyone can get behind, therefore putting your criticizers back in your in group for a moment, reminding them that there's a reason to rally underneath you. Like that's like a human psychology thing.
By offering up alternative information. For example, the state media outspoken news commentator from the Global Times jumped in, tweeting, "This year can be called the year of UFO. It's so mysterious." The object over China now is being discussed online as a possible American spy balloon. Guys?
I mean, who fucking knows? And now here's like a little more coverage on just like all of the things that have been shot down now, because now several items have been shot down total. I don't know if much is known about any of them. I know of I know the first thing that was shot down Friday was shot down over Alaska, landed on some frozen parts. Basically, the Pentagon was briefed on the object. They consulted with the president. The president, after speaking with the Pentagon and getting some recommendations from top defense officials over there, gave the green light to shoot down the object. It landed on a frozen section of water, I believe, so they had full intentions of being able to recover it. But at the time it was shot down, at least, I never got a chance to follow up because I had kind of a long, crazy weekend. It was unknown if it was private owned, U.S. owned, Chinese owned, any other government. We had no idea who it belonged to. So it pretty much has gotten to this the point now where if it's not military or commercial airspace travel or private airspace travel, it's getting shot down. If it's unidentified, it's getting shot down. Fly your drones low, friends.
Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, the U.S. military shot down objects over Alaska, Canada's Yukon Territory, and Lake Huron.
Yesterday's downing followed similar discoveries in the sky above Alaska on Friday and then the Yukon Territory in Canada on Saturday. Both those objects were also shot down, but where they came from or what their purpose was has not yet been disclosed. Only that they were both balloon-like objects.
It's hit.
Okay, they were balloon-like.
Just like the massive Chinese spy balloon that was shot down off the coast of South Carolina on February the 4th.
What's gone on the last, 2 weeks or so, 10 days, has been nothing short of craziness. And the military needs to have a plan to not only determine what's out there, but determine the dangers that go with it.
While recovery efforts for the Chinese balloon are still underway, the US has said definitively that it was part of a massive global surveillance operation by Beijing covering at least 40 countries. And while it's still too early to say where the three latest objects came from, aerospace experts like Major General Scott Clancy say if it looks like surveillance and smells like surveillance...
This is not Bob and his balloon in the backyard, that's floating these things around. This is a level of technology or innovative technology that is not indicative of a private company or someone else. It's indicative. of that which a nation.
The part that just seems so crazy to me is with all the planes that are flying around everywhere all the time. Like maybe these things do fly really high, so high that no one's spotting them or seeing them on radar or anything. But I just have a heart like, how was this ever going to work? How would people not spot balloon things? Or is it a red herring? Or I have so many thoughts because I just don't get it. It just seems so fundamentally dumb to me. But I mean, I was wrong. So like, clearly I don't understand a few things here. So I'm just trying to get a better understanding, but that's crazy to me. Like, we just sent balloons all over the earth to monitor people and expected no one anywhere to see any of them? What?
Nation state would have. This, to me, is the concerted effort of an organization that is attempting to garner significant information.
Like, there's smartphones everywhere. You know what I mean? Like, there's no way that's staying quiet for longer than a week. I don't know when this campaign started, but I can't imagine it started that long ago, because we found one and then 2, 3, 4. You know what I mean? Like, just starts rolling in after that, and then other countries are like, we've kind of seen those too.
China said today that America was simply using missiles to hype the situation and claimed America employed exactly the same surveillance tactics.
Since last year, US high-altitude balloons have illegally flown over China's airspace more than 10 times. The US should first reflect on itself and change course rather than smear others and instigate confrontation.
Not a smear, said the White House today. It's simply a fact. It claimed that the Chinese balloon was trying to spy on America.
There is no question in our minds that that system was designed to surveil, that was an intelligence asset. I'll leave it there.
But the same cannot be said of the 3 mystery objects shot down by the US military over the weekend.
Okay.
They've ruled out...
So the 3 that were shot over the weekend, while they were balloon-like structures just like the first one, they have not been linked to their surveillance campaign or even identified as surveillance devices, it sounds like.
Extraterrestrials, that much we do know. But what they were, their purpose, and who owned them is yet to be determined.
Does the US and other Western allies use them as well, or is this just a Chinese thing?
Oh, absolutely. This is done by all, let's call it first world top tech nation states.
Okay, so it is just a pretty common modern day espionage tactic.
As part of espionage activities.
I mean, presumably they could also be used for just sort of political mischief rather than surveillance. I mean, you know, if it's obviously really winding up the Americans, then you might decide to send loads more.
Absolutely. It's possible, but we also do know that there has been a campaign over the past year or so that China has been trying to do mass surveillance of a whole bunch of different countries, not just the US, using these high altitude platforms. And balloons are just one of a number of these different high altitude assets that they're probably engaging.
So far, the operations to...
Yeah, but I can't help but think there. So he just said that we know for a fact that China started this campaign to, surveil, a massive amount of countries. That statement came right on the heels of, oh yeah, every major country is doing the same thing. So we almost for certain either have launched a campaign similar or are planning to, you know what I mean? So like, to say like China's completely immoral and unjustified for doing this while also doing it, it's just, I don't know. Like everyone's doing it, man. Either everyone do it or no one do it is kind of how I feel. Either everyone do it or no one do it, because like you have no ground to stand on if you're doing it. It's just weird. It's weird to me. Also, it sounds like it's been going on for a while. Public just noticed it now because the balloon was so big, and maybe that was intentional to make people panic or create more, instability over here and more divisiveness between Republicans and Democrats. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much where it's at. The first balloon certainly was a surveillance balloon. Sounds like surveillance balloons have existed for a long time, but usually not that large. it's confirmed that China launched a recent campaign to create a hybrid satellite architecture structure sort of thing with these balloons in our atmosphere. There's an implication there quietly that other nations, including the US, possibly have done similar things or are in the process of doing similar things as well, with this statement that this is a modern day espionage tactic. It seems like it's just one of those things that's fairly common in our world, but because of political pressure, in the time that it's being thrown into America's public eye, it's causing a big stir up and a big panic, which is really only serving to create a better situation for people hoping to hurt America, if we're being honest. So, like, I don't know. It's a crazy situation. I'm going to keep following it and try to get more and more understandings of what's going on and how it's going to affect things. But it's interesting. It's a little scary, but we have shifted into this weird quasi Cold War. It's obviously not quite the same as the Cold War, but we're in a unique place now. You know, where things are getting shot down regularly. That's new. That's definitely new. Thanks for watching, guys. Follow me on Twitch to join us live, like and subscribe, and I will catch you later.